I'm Sandra, and I'm just the professional your small business was looking for. But you didn't hire me because you didn't use LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn has professionals you can't find anywhere else, including those who aren't actively looking for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role, like me.
In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you'll miss out on great candidates like Sandra. Start hiring professionals like a professional. Post your free job on linkedin.com/people today.
Since 2013, Bombas has donated over 100 million socks, underwear, and T-shirts to those facing homelessness. If we counted those on air, this ad would last over 1,157 days. But if we counted the time it takes to make a donation possible, it would take just a few clicks. Because every time you make a purchase, Bombas donates an item to someone who needs it.
Go to bombas.com/ACAST and use code ACAST for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/ACAST, code ACAST.
Hello guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. This week we're going to take you for a journey through the early 2000s Maiden albums. We're going to start this week with A Matter of Life and Death, and in the next couple of weeks we're going to do Dance of Death and Final Frontier, because it is Maiden year. The band is going to be on tour in Australia very soon, and I thought it might be good to dive back into the albums that I personally have said on before on record that I don't really enjoy. Now, I have a little bit of context when I say this, okay? So you have to picture, it's 2006, A Matter of Life and Death came out. My children at that age were 11 and 9. And yeah, it was a tough, you know, when you have a young family and you're settling, I'd only been in the country for probably less than 8 years I've been in Australia. So, settling in, I mean, it's still a settling in period. I mean, it sounds like a long time, 8 years, but really when you, a different culture, I was going through, different jobs and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, this came out and it was probably the first Maiden album I bought on CD, directly onto CD. I always bought them on vinyl, and then I bought this one on CD, as I said, when I first played it, I played with different ears. I was a bit of a different person back then when it comes to appreciation of this particular of Iron Maiden. I was very much a dyed-in-the-wool, peace of mind, all that sort of stuff. Trooper, blah blah blah, nothing else. What I don't like, and I was really sort of snobby about it, and that, dear listeners, is a really bad thing to have, because you tend to find yourself missing out on some really great stuff. And of course, after going back to this album, which is what making this program really is amazing for me, is after going back to this album, I've really opened my eyes to bit of a fool I've been. I was the same with the Blaze Bayley years. I don't know if you may have listened to my shows way back when I did my tour through the Blaze Bayley albums, because again, snobbily, it's not Bruce Dickinson, I don't want to know. And I really did sort of let myself down in quite a major way, because I actually liked both of them. I wouldn't say they were in my top 10 by any means, but they're certainly worth a listen. And this is the same with Matter of Life and Death. Right from the outset, to be right brutally honest, I didn't like the artwork. I thought Eddie was far too small in the painting. It just didn't vibe with me. But going back, as I said, pulling the CD out, I put it in my hand, pulling the CD out and having another look at it, another listen to it, I have really fallen in love with it. I have absolutely annoyed now that I've spent most of my ignoring it. Exactly the same with, as I said, with the Blaze Bayley years. So Iron Maiden, this was their 14th studio album. It's 71 minutes and 53 seconds long. Now, there's another one of my issues with this particular period of Maiden is that the CD era of every band around this period was squeeze as much as you can on the CD because you've got the space to do it. Now, that does sound glorious when you think your favourite band's just released an hour's worth of music and you go, I'm going to sit down and listen to it. You know what? It's not as simple as that. Sometimes you just want to listen to the music and get on with things you're doing and to spend some time with it and move on. You don't want to spend half your day trying to get through it. And an hour is a long time for one musical form to concentrate on, to be honest with you. For a lot of us, I personally, as I said before, I like the 40-minute, 45-minute, and I'm really happy with that, unless it's a double album. But then I can choose to come back to the second album, can't I, when I want to or not. So it's 71 minutes long. It was produced by Kevin Caveman Shirley. They've done a lot of work with him in the past. It was also co-produced by Steve Harris. And it was the first album where they decided not to master it. Now, I did say in my TikTok video and online many times that I didn't like the sound of this album. One of the problems I felt with it was it feels... Well, I felt it felt... too electronic, too digital. Now, that could be because I was listening to it on the CD, and that is probably why. Because when I listened back to it again, I'm not that sure whether that was the right decision that I made. I'll be hands up, I admit that. It was not mastered, so they decided not to master it. It means they didn't add on EQs, and they didn't echo it, and they didn't add compression and analog widening and all the fidgy-widgy stuff you do in a studio. It was what you hear on a lot of the tracks is what you get. So it's like first time through, which is something that I think once I knew that, because I didn't know that before, once I knew that, and when I was re-listening and researching, it really opened up my mind to the sound. And I realized that it is exactly what I was looking for. Weirdly. Now, I know it sounds a bit of a U-turn once I knew that, but it is interesting what a little bit of knowledge goes. Like I went to a fantastic night the other night at Whiskey Live, which is a whiskey tasting evening I go to once a year with my son-in-laws, and I love a fine whiskey. And when you know more about what you're drinking, it's actually more enjoyable. And that's the same with this, I think, with this music here. Now, it's not considered a concept album, but I personally think it is a concept album. Don't go running, like I said before, don't run away. It's not an hour-long noodle. It's a lot to it. Steve Harris reckons it's the most 70s-styled prog the band has ever been. They also, Nico and Steve and the rest of the band, think it's the heaviest they were up to that point. And I think I'm with Steve on this on listening. I will go over that in the second half when we talk about the tracks by tracks. But I do generally think that it's it has a very 70s sound in that respect to it. As for the heaviness, yes. If you listen to the albums prior to this and then listen to this one, yes, it is much, much heavier. There's a lot more oomph to it. And I think that's because it hasn't been mastered as heavily as other albums have been in the past. So you get that rawness sort of up front. It was played live in its entirety during the tour to really mixed reviews. Hardcore fans were not overly happy that they'd gone and see. They want, you know what it's like. You cannot make everyone happy all the time. You can't all be the Trooper and Ryman the Ancient Mariner. I mean, if they could do Ryman the Ancient Mariner every time I saw them, then I'd be grinning, right? But they don't. They have they have to enjoy their work, and if that means playing what they're really proud of all the way through, then that's what it means. Being playing all the way through, they're proud of it. Let them enjoy their work. They are artists after all. Unfortunately, we listeners want it to be how we want it to be because, to them, to us, they are ours, right? And we almost not control them is the wrong word, but we want them to be how we want them to be, right? Which is good and bad in equal, in sort of equal portions. Anyway, It's also the first. Sorry, I went off my track there. It's also the fourth studio album to not have a title track on the album. So they had like Peace of Mind, X Factor, Virtual 11. This is the fourth one that there's no Matter of Life and Death track on this album. They originally were thinking of calling it The Pilgrim or The Legacy, which are two tracks on this album. I think The Legacy would have been perfectly apt because we'll get to that on the other side. But you know, I quite like the idea of not having a title track. It sort of adds that sort of feel of progginess to it to me. And also, now I'm going to go back to the cover. Now, there is an issue with me in the early 2000 albums. Again, it comes down to the artwork, I think, as well. Like Virtual 11 is awful. I never really liked the Space Eddie from Final Frontier. And this one, because when you're buying it, you're buying on a CD, right? Okay, where's my CD cover? Got to put it somewhere. Anyway, here it is. So you're buying a CD cover, and there it is. You know, it's a small little brochure, and it's in your hand. It's not like vinyl. And on there, I could barely tell that the character on the top of the tank was Eddie. Now, what it is, it's a Korean-style tank with these sort of zombie skeletal army marching in front of it, one sitting down having a cigarette. And on the top of the tank is Eddie in uniform holding a automatic rifle. It's in a battlefield, obviously, you can tell. And on the front, you got a sprayed stencil of two automatic rifles and Eddie in Eddie's head in a looks like a German helmet, could be an American helmet, right? It's a generic army helmet. Now it was originally it's done by the wonderful artists from Hellblazer and sorry, I got to find it. Where was I right here? Yeah, Hellblazer and The Punisher. It's Tim Bradstreet. Now, there's a story behind this cover, right? So he's the illustrator, and then his partner did the coloring, right? He's a long-time fan of Derek Riggs' work and of Iron Maiden, so it was a real big buzz for him to get it. He did this piece of art. Now, according to what I can read, Peacock. It was Peacock. What have I got here? Peacock Design UK did the booklet, right? So the photographs, the words. And Tim handed over the artwork because it had to be done quite quickly. And they took it and they sort of altered it and changed it and coloured it and did things to it. And I just feel that it could have been really powerful, and it still is really powerful in a larger form, I think. But it just says, I mean, this is graphic novel, great, fine. That's what they were aiming for, I think. But it doesn't have the punch of some of the earlier albums or even the later albums, because without someone like Derek Riggs or oh God, what's his bloody name? Does he? Hang on, once. Shit, old man, I'm too old. Hold on. Or Mark Wilkinson. I knew I was going to say that. My brain went completely somewhere else. Without their designs, it's an interesting, because I don't think that the cover really tells the full story of the quality of the album inside it. Between you and me, anyway, I think it's a little bit less. And I mean, it's far better than Dance of Death by a million years, and by a million light years, it's better than Final Frontier. I mean, you open the booklet up and it's got pictures of the band posing with their guitars in the studio, and on the back you got them all standing there, sort of legs akimbo, trying to look hard. And really, to be honest, two people that look hard are Nico and Steve. The rest look like they're just sort of going off to play Paul. Anyway, ooh, controversial, but you know what I mean? Like it. It's that era in those that are alive, that are listening to this now, who were adults back then. It was a funny period, the early 2000s. We'd come out of the blandness of the 90s. We'd had some world-shattering events that had changed all of us that lived through it. And we were sort of struggling to find an identity, I think. And metal itself was in a real sort of doldrums because, you know, it's sort of, grunge had come and gone, but was still hanging around. Metal was sort of moving towards new metal, God forbid. And it was sort of like, I don't know, it was uncool to like this kind of music. And weirdly, it's odd because it's now super cool, right? I don't, it comes in waves, right? But it was uncool. And bands like Maiden lived predominantly on the power of their fan base. Now, they were also, with this album, they did some really interesting things, like the first single off the album, Different World, and the which is the song I find the most intriguing, which is the Reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg. They sort of did this. I remember there was a whole kind of when's it coming? It's coming now. All the magazines. This is pre-massive internet, right? So internet was in its infancies, really. So it was like, all these magazines were saying things like there were pictures of Benjamin Brieg, the character digging in a graveyard, and if you're a fan, you could go onto the fan base website and watch the video in full and listen to the song before it was released, and who is Benjamin Brieg, and it was all this fantastic stuff, and Maiden were really using that early internet a way to sell their records, and it clearly did very well because it was the first album to enter the top 10 Billboard in the US. Maiden album, that is, anyway, on release. So it was really quite sort of they were quite on the cutting edge, which I thought was really good for them because they were trying to keep themselves alive and fresh. And they're also changing their sound because this is when Seventh Son of a Seventh Son is when they started becoming progressive, but then they sort of stepped back a bit for albums after that, and then they sort of hit the 2000s and went, right, well, this is us now. We have the freedom to be what we want to be. It's our 14th studio album. Let's do something different. And to be fair, it really is something different and something special. So, most of the latter Maiden fans will know that the image I'm talking about with the crossed assault rifles, and it's like a skull and crossbones, basically. And originally, on the back cover was going to be a picture of Eddie shot dead. But the band changed their mind, and so on the back you've got just the picture of the crossed assault rifles and Eddie, like I said, with the helmet on there. I don't know. I think they missed the beat there slightly. Yes, it would have been a bit daring, but why not? Why not make something daring? I think this, as I said, it's slightly Blandsville. Now, people are going to shake their fist at me, I'm sure, and say, no, it's not. It's wonderful. And yes, it is brilliant. I am not that. I'm not going to say that it's not brilliant, but it's not my. Or I wouldn't jump at it and say that's my Maiden image. To be honest with you, things like Book of Souls and Senjutsu, they're the, they really, they shout Maiden straight at you, right? Because Eddie is front and center and single character. Like, I think when they try to do the big picture, like, it's quite tricky. Like, I really love the Derek Riggs stuff. Anyway, that's me just being probably just me being me, really. But yeah, that's one. So where I'm coming from is that it just didn't fall into place for me. And I bought the CD, and I have to tell you, since 2006, I've probably played it 8-9 times. I know. I mean, obviously there are tracks of it that I've heard live by the band, and I have listened to the odd track here and there, that comes up in your playlist, like Longest Day or Brighter Than a Thousand Suns. But I haven't sat down with it from beginning to end in that time. And since I've done so, as I said right at the beginning of the show, it's been a real eye-opener, and I really thank you guys for letting me. It gives me a good reason to do this stuff. I love it. Like last week, I can do a whole thing about crass and crazy, anarcho-punk. And then this week, I can do the complete polar opposite end and do, Iron Maiden, sort of standard bearers of all that is brilliant in heavy music. Anyway, that's enough for me jibber-jabbering about this record and how I'm going to go about it, how I liked it and what's going on. And on the other side, if you stay with us, if you do stay with me, I hope you do, we'll go and we'll talk about track for track and the sound of the album. Anyway, enjoy the ads. I'm getting myself a fresh cup of tea. You get yourself a new drink, relax, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
I'm Sandra, and I'm just the professional your small business was looking for. But you didn't hire me because you didn't use LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn has professionals you can't find anywhere else, including those who aren't actively looking for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role, like me.
In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you'll miss out on great candidates like Sandra. Start hiring professionals like a professional. Post your free job on linkedin.com/people today.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
What you're hearing are the sounds of people everywhere putting on Bombas socks, underwear, and T-shirts made from absurdly soft materials that feel like plush clouds. Yeah, that plush. And the best part? For every item you purchase, Bombas donates another to someone facing homelessness.
Bombas. Big comfort for everyone. Go to bombas.com/ACAST and use code ACAST for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/ACAST, code ACAST.
Hey there, it's Michelle Norris. I'm host of a podcast called Your Mama's Kitchen. When I travel, I'm usually looking for a way to find a taste of home when I'm not at home. And one of the things I love to do when I am at home is entertain. And Airbnb allows me to do that. When I was in California recently, I rented a house that had a great kitchen. And when we were sitting around the table, we're all thinking, we're in someone else's house. Someone could be in all of our homes as well. If you have a home, but you're not always at home, you have an Airbnb. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to part 2 of this show where we look at A Matter of Life and Death, the 14th studio album by Iron Maiden. An album that I chucked aside. I mean, I have a vast record collection. I won't deny that's very large. And so, you know, you sort of chuck it to the side and you think, I'll get round to that. I'll listen to it again. I never did. But what a fantastic album it is. It is layered. It is textured. It's got a, typically brilliant Maiden composition. It's brilliant. Bruce's vocals are emotional, strong. They're probably the best they were for that early 2000 period. It's got all the usual Maiden gallops. It's got heaviness, and it's really chunky and biting. The guitars are mixed beautifully. It's got a fantastic beefy feel to it. And it has, a lot of the songs, the song times, like, okay, so the track listing goes, A Different World, that's 4 minutes 17. These Colours Don't Run, that's 6 minutes 52. Brighter Than a Thousand Suns, that's 8 minutes 44. The Pilgrim at 5 minutes, that's 7. The Longest Day at 7 minutes 48. Out of the Shadows at 5 minutes 36. The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg, 7 minutes 21. For the Greater Good of God, 9 minutes 24. Lord of Light, 7:23. And The Legacy at 9 minutes 20. So none of these tracks are flyby tracks. All of them have intricate and amazing time changes, which is what you expect from any Maiden album. Anything that Steve Harris has got his hands on is going to have just, time changes on the turn of a coin. It is so progressive in that fact that it's not balls to the wall 4-4-4, right? Or 4-8, whatever. It changes all over the place. I mean, he is the best bass player in the world in rock by far the best rock bass player in the world. And his ability to write a song is possibly not equaled anywhere. I don't know where this constant stream of musicality comes from. Of course, they've, all the rest of the band do their bit and they do write their music. Of course they do. But Steve is the sort of controller, and you can tell where he's not just a bass player that sits on the root note and goes, well, okay, well, I'm just going to sit here and plod along. This guy is a artist, a genius, and I use that term lightly, okay? The lyrical contents for most of the songs are war related. It says, I mean, you get the cover look, it's a tank with soldiers on the front. It is, you have tracks like These Colors Don't Run and Brighter Than a Thousand Suns and The Pilgrim, Longest Day, and so on. They are all war related to some extent. What's It definitely has the better of the sound of the Turn the Millennium albums by, yes, absolutely. I wrote that down. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It has a feel sometimes of some of Bruce's early solo or latter solo albums. And the mix itself sometimes sounds a bit like some of Bruce's solo albums. Particularly, I feel it's a bit like my Chemical Wedding Day. I've written here that it's full of pomp and the vocals feel pushed forward, which I think is the correct thing to do, because sometimes with Bruce, particularly latter albums, he gets lost behind the music a little bit. And that's a bit of a sin because, he's one of the greatest vocalists in the medium alive, right? And so it is hard for the mix not because of he's be called the Siren, right? So we don't want it to overtake the music. But this mix on this particular album is really, really clever, and I've put it's full of pomp. Nico's cymbal work on this album is second to none. I mean, I love the nuances that he puts in The Pilgrim, which is track 4. Just lovely little nuances on the cymbals and the hi-hats. And let's go track by track, right? So A Different World, okay? It was a single. It's a great single. It's very sing-along. It's got a good chorus. The solos on it are fantastic. The lyric itself is pretty straightforward, You had me on the path, keep showing me the way. I feel a little lost, a little stranger today. And it's the way that that Bruce, I love the way he says, the way he enunciates, I think I'll take a hold, or whatever comes my way, then we'll see what happens, take it day by day. And it's really music. When I say it's got a lot of musicality to it, but the trouble with some of this, I mean, I love extreme music. I told you last week, and you only know by listening to my show. I do love the extremity of heavy metal, but the musicality sometimes is lost in just the brutality of it. And the musicality in Maiden is there right from the start, because that's their main ethics. They want a musicality. They want melody. I mean, Steve has gone out and said he wanted the Wishbone Ash sound with the 2 guitars. Well, they've got 3 now, haven't they, right? So the musicality is definitely there. And it doesn't get mixed. It's not like you don't feel that there's, many people pulling apart the album in songs in different ways. I mean, we don't know what it's like when they're recording. There may be tension, but it seems not that in the music. It seems they just come together. And it's a really good opening track. I don't know. I think it's just about, look, I think this song is about the turn of millennium. I think I would say it's about the turn of millennium. I can't say millennium, probably millennium. A different world. We had 9/11, things were changing. There was war. And I think he's just talking, he'll take whatever he can day by day, how life goes, because it's a different world now. And I think it's a really great track to open up with. And then we get These Colors Don't Run. Now, These Colors Don't Run is a controversial song to some extent, because obviously it's about, several sources say several things. People say that it's about Ozzy Osbourne and living in America and the trouble they had during Ozfest, where where Ozzy's wife was quite rude to the band, and Ozzy was rude, and they're saying, look, we live in England, even though we're big multi-million selling record millionaires. We don't live in America. These colours don't run. We're proudly British, although Nico does live in America, I believe. But that's controversial because it might not be the case. There is also way of saying it could be that a patriotic song that in wartime, our flag doesn't change its color. We are who we are. You can't change us. It's got a brilliant chorus. I absolutely love the chorus. It's very written for stadium. Some songs are written stadium, some are not. Some work in a large environment. This works brilliantly in a large environment. And Maiden does have that kind of fan base. Very loyal, very family-esque. They always we do feel as Maiden fans like we are part of a family. Always have done, always will do. And they come out that way if you hear them play Blood Brothers, that's from Dance of Death. They have that that has that feel to it, a family type feel. Okay, it was written by Harris, Smith, and Dickinson. And it says that it's the same in every country. When you say you're leaving, left behind loved ones, waiting silent in the hall. Where you're going lies adventure others only dream of. So again, is it a stab at the Ozzy and his wife? Possibly. It's more, though, in my opinion, probably just another war-related, about leaving behind your loved ones, thinking that you're going to go to adventure, particularly in the First World War. Not so much the second, but certainly in the first, people thought they were going on to this amazing adventure and be back by Christmas, and they were going to, it'd be all crumpets and tea in Dusseldorf by lunch, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. But unfortunately, it was not the case. So I think that's what that. But again, a brilliant solo in these colours. I love the way that the song moves. It's got a real dynamism to it. I absolutely, probably my second favourite track on this album. Okay, then we're going to come through to Brighter Than a Thousand Suns. Now, this one has Bruce's best vocal on the album because he really reaches some great notes in this. And this is quite obviously, this is very apt for this last year because of the movie Oppenheimer, but it's about testing of nuclear weapons. It is about the power of, about unleashing the splitting of the atom. It mentions Einstein and knocking heads together will raise a city, build a living hell, join the race to suicide, listen to the tolling of the bell. Out of the universe a strange love is born, unholy union, Trinity reformed. So because that's the atom is something that deep in the core of the universe, and they split it, don't they? It's very Maiden. I would have had that as a single. I think it's got it's got a lot of bombast to it, right? I mean, it's 8 minutes 44. It doesn't just like a typical Maiden. You start off one way, you think, oh, this is the way this song is going, and then it goes a different way, and you come back to where you were before, and you feel comfortable because you know where you were before, and then it goes away again, has different layers. Steve's bass is just extraordinary. Nico's drumming is as a little bit harsh. A lot of the cases, I feel like the tuning on it feels a bit thumpy. I don't know if that's the right term. It doesn't feel as loose armed as I like my drumming to be, but it's still really sharp. It's Nico McBrain, mate. Come on. I'm really I'm trying to find negatives which aren't really there. And then we move to The Pilgrim. Oh my God. Now, I've written lots of notes about The Pilgrim. Okay. What I've written here. I said this is it has an historical modern feel. I don't know what that means. I've written it down. I was writing it like in a quick sort of, it has this, the lyric fits the song beautifully. It's got a real Middle Eastern feel. It feels, to be honest with you, like something that was that would have been on musically and conceptually. It feels like it's from a much later album. It feels like it's off of It feels like it's off the off of Book of Souls. That's where it feels like to me. It's traditional, yet it's got this Middle Eastern feel. And Maiden do this so well. They do this so well. This I don't know how they do it, but they make this sound. They can make any sound, like when the trooper feels like the guns and the mud and the chaos of the light charge of the light brigade, right? The Brighter Than a Thousand Suns feels like the scorching desert of the nuclear tests in America and in Australia, and this one feels like an Arabic, like, okay, the lyric. The keys to death and hell, the alien kingdom doomed to hell, the bonds of sin, the heart will break, the pilgrim's course will take, quelling the devil's might and ready for eternal fight. So, it's basically, obviously, it's about the very, very troublesome and very awful, knights going on their pilgrimage and fighting the Arabs and trying to make them Christians. It's very troublesome. I've just been listening to a really good podcast about that particular time in history, and I urge you to do so. It will open your mind, particularly around the Knights Templar. Anyway, they just seem to do it. They seem to have this way of making the guitar sound Arabic and sound sitar-y, and I know sitar's in India, but you know what I'm saying, all right? Ancient instruments. It's written by Steve Harris and Yannick Gers. It's 5 minutes, 7 seconds long. I think it should be longer. I just think it has a wonderful texture. I think this is my pick of the album. This, if I had to pick one to take from this album, this would probably be the one I enjoyed the most going back to, and was looking forward to it coming around again when I listened to it. Okay. And then we get on to, I think the next one is, yes, it's The Longest Day at 7 minutes 48, written by Smith, Harris, and Dickinson. Again, this is a war-related one. There's a movie called The Longest Day. It's typically Second World War. It's what Dickinson really loves. It's one of his key loves, because he's a pilot and he likes that kind of warplanes and so on. In the gloom, the gathering storm abates. In the ships, gimlet eyes await. The call to arms, to hammer all the gates, to blow them wider through evil to its fate. All right. Throw evil to its fate, sorry. And it's a really, again, this one's got a lovely gallop. Really great gallop as it opens up, and the feel of the engines of the boats and the horses on the ground and the troops and the airplanes and the sub. It just feels like there's a storm cloud brewing, and it's growing. It really builds to a fantastic crescendo, and it's one thing you can say about Maiden is they never write a crappy lyric. I don't know if I could ever say there's a lyric that I didn't like. I mean, there are songs I don't like of theirs, a couple particularly of the last 3 or 4 albums, but they don't write a bad lyric. They just don't. And I think it's because they've got such a foundation of brilliant music behind them, and also really intelligent lads, all of them. From East End gutter snipes, as they would all think they were all raised in a rough part of London. And yet they've got this intelligence that's just seeps into their music, and you feel that with this one. And then we move on to Out of the Shadows. This is the most traditional Maiden song on this album. It has again sounds like a lot of Bruce's solo work. It sounds like something that Bruce would have done on maybe as I said, probably on Chemical Wedding again, possibly. It's got that texture, that progressive sound. It's got his vocals are soaring and majestic. Here, they're really hit their peak, I think, in this particular song. It almost feels like it could come off Peace of Mind I've written, which I think is a very big compliment because that's their best album in my opinion. It has a wonderful ascending and descending guitar solos. Brilliant cymbal work by Nico again on this, and it's got it's got a beautiful, clean guitar sound, which is something that you don't get a lot in modern metal, and I love that a lot. And because there's three guitarists, they're doing their best to sort of to not fight against each other. Out of the Shadows. Now, again, I would say this is. I'll read the lyric to you. Hold a halo round the world. Golden is the day. Princess of the universe, your burden is the way. So there is no better time. Who will be born today? A gypsy child at daybreak, a king for a day. I would say this is about rebirth. About probably it could be about the birth of Christ. I don't know. I know that Nico is quite religious. I don't know whether this had an input to it. Dusty dreams in fading daylight flicker on the walls. Nothing new for your life, adrift with purpose to it all. Eyes are closed and death is calling, reaching but out its hand. Call upon the straight to surround you. Yeah. Look, I think it could be about the last things you do before death. I don't know. It's beautiful. It has this really soulful. For a heavy song, it's quite soulful. It's really beautiful. If you take the lyric out and just listen to it, the solo, there's a lovely little lift in the solo in the second part of the song that has this sort of yearning to it. It's just I don't know what that song is about. I'm only going to guess. Out of the shadows into the sun, dreams of the past as the old days were done. Oh, there is beauty and surely there is pain, but we must endure it all to live again. So it probably is about reincarnation even. I don't know. I just think it's something, and then right at the end it says, a man who casts no shadow has no soul. Beautiful. It could be from a literary work. I mean, but all the band love their literary connections. But it really, I mean, Bruce's ability to pull an emotion out in this song is just something sweet as. I mean, it's as I said, I always thought out Longest Day was powerful. This is really, really powerful. And then we get to Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg. Don't ask me what this is about. I'm not going to say, tell me what it's about. I have researched this. I cannot work out what it is about. It's a brilliant piece of music. You know, it's written by Murray and Harris. It's 7 minutes 21. It's playful. It's got a really brilliant hook in it. You can see why it was a single. Let me tell you about my life. Let me tell you about my dreams. Let me tell you about the things that happen always real to me. This has early Maiden all over it. This has something from definitely from Peace of Mind, but also absolutely from possibly even, I don't know, would I say it's it definitely feels Peace of Mindy. I think I say that because it's my favorite Maiden now, but it has that kind of new wave of British heavy metal feel. But it could be Number of the Beastie as well. It's that duality. It's in those two albums, and when you listen to those albums and listen to this, you're going to see what I'm saying. And I hope you, dear listeners, do this. Go back, listen to Peace of Mind, Number of the Beast, and then listen to this and see what you think. I think you're going to go, yeah, I feel it. And I think it's because it's written by Harris and Murray, and they're the two of the founding members of the band, the longest lasting members of the band. It's just, the lyric is great. Why should these curses be laid upon me? It's the way he sings it as well. It's lovely. And then it's got that, he uses the guitar rhythm on the vocal, just brilliant to pull it out. I won't be forgiven till I can break free. What did I do to deserve all this guilt? And again, I don't know what it's about. I could read the whole lyric out and I still wouldn't understand. I mean, one day I must have, if someone knows out there, honestly, genuinely, I say this every week, but if someone knows what this song is about, genuinely, love you to reach out and tell me, because I just think it's It's just fun. It's a great single. It's well sung. It's got a lot of movement. Brilliant drum interlude bit from Nico. And then we go on to For the Greater Good of God, a brilliant live track. I've seen them play this live. It's got pomp. It's got energy. It's got pizzazz, if you know what I mean. It's a real Maiden song. It's got a lot of sing-along anthemic images to it. It's quite long at 9 minutes 24. It starts off really simple, a great kind of quieter piece of music with a lyric, are you a man of peace or a man of war, holy war? Too many sides to you, don't know which one anymore. So many full of life, but also filled with pain. Don't know just how many will live to breathe again. Obviously, it's about going to war. It's going to war for religious reasons, a holy war for the greater good of God, and probably about the stupidity of that as well, the reason not to do it. And it has this brilliant chorus that you will find yourself earworming singing it. I was doing it. I was on the bus the other day, just going, for the greater good of God. I could not stop tapping my foot to it. And I forgot how bloody good it is, right? The lyric is just beautiful. It's a very long lyric. It's so progressive. You don't realize that it's 9 minutes 24. You just don't. There's some bands where a 9-minute track would take you to the point where you want to shout at it and stop, please stop. But this, it just goes, because they have so varied time signatures and such a clever way of turning the rhythm and the nuance and the texture and the density and liquidity of their music. It changes so beautifully that you don't realize it, and that's what great progressive music does. Great progressive music, it will take you on a 27-minute song journey like Supper's Ready by Genesis, and you won't go, shit, that was 27 minutes. You'll go, really? Where's the rest of it? And that's what you get with this band and this album. And I am genuinely hearing my voice, I'm so excited by listening to this album again. It's really, really pleased me, and I'm really happy. And then we get to Lord of Light. Okay, this is Smith, Harris, and Dickinson song, 7 minutes 23 seconds. This one is the only song on the album that I don't know whether I really love it. I don't hate it, but I don't really love it, and it's because it's after a brilliant song like, as I said, like For the Greater Good of God, and right behind my very favourite song on the album, which is The Legacy, which is the final track. It's good. It's a staple. It's fast. It's got really nice textures. The lyric itself, okay, there are many secrets that you keep. There are secrets that you keep. There are secrets that you tell me to keep me alone. I can't reach things I can't see. You don't see this strange world quite the same as me. Again, I think that's about seeing the world through I'm religious eyes. I don't know. Again, I don't think it's that religious. Free your soul and let it fly. Give your life to the Lord of Light. Keep your secrets, rain on me, and I see all mysteries. It probably is, it's probably about bit more to life than just what we have in front of us. And it has that kind of, this song does feel like it's off one of the later Maiden albums, so off of Dance of Death and Final Frontier. I think this could be one of those ones that they might have used similar sounding material for those other two albums. I don't know. It, again, not my favorite. I'll move on, okay, to the final track, which is The Legacy. Now, I've written a fair bit about this because this fairly, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whoever you are, this is what Maiden does very, very well. There is very rarely a final track on a Maiden album that lets you down. And this one makes you just wish there was more, okay? It's 9 minutes and 20 seconds long. It's written by Yannick Gers and Steve Harris. it's got this. It's so different. It's so progressive. It's so beautifully retro, but beautifully modern. It starts off with this fantastic, sort of classical guitar kind of soft piece of music that takes you very much into some of the another Brucey's solo stuff. And the classical guitar is sitting behind the distorted modern electric guitar, and you hear it just behind there, and it's like two guitars struggling to be together, but at the same time beautifully nuanced. It's sort of like the birth of one guitar to another. It's beautiful. It's orchestral. It's full of bombast. It's just purely wonderful. It is sensationally groovy. It has an incredible groove to it. It's just everything that you want from Maiden and more. It changes dynamism. It changes direction. I think it's quite possibly one of their greatest songs. And that's a big call for me because, for me, it will always be Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, always. But when you listen to the legacy, it sounds like a band at their very, very best. It sounds like a band that knows exactly what it's wanting to do. And more for me, I mean, I could honestly tears in my eyes thinking about this. More for me not allowing this in my life for much, much longer than it has been. I'm making up for time. Last time I've probably listened to this track now 9 times in the last week. It's just lyrically, tell you a thing that you ought to know. 2 minutes about your time, then on you go. Tell a tale of a man all dressed in black, for most of them not coming back. Sent off to war to play little games, and to return can't name the names. Strange yellow gas has played with their minds, has reddened their eyes and removed their lies. So it's probably, to me, it feels it's about what happens to you when you come back from war. The gas thing is mustard gas and all those gases they used in the trenches, chlorine gas and so on, that really wasn't as effective. Actually, little side note, wasn't as effective because it was heavy, and so light, so it would not sink. You could get under it. So even though it did a lot of harm and was very bad, soldiers could see it coming because it had a blue color to it. So they were scared, but they could get away, or they could get their rudimentary masks on, which basically cloth bags with. It was anyway. It's not wasn't effective as they think it would be. But anyway, I think that's what it's about. It's about the legacy of what happens when you come back from war. So the whole album starts with going to war, and then it finishes with the legacy of what happens when you come back. Take the world to a better place, giving them all just a little hope. Just think what a legacy we will leave. So yeah, it's what they think they were going to do, what was going to be left behind after they come back. It's a stunner. It sits there very happily for me as one of their greatest songs, and it's sort of lost to me, particularly on the end of an album that I didn't give much justice to. And I hope that you out there, if you really like me weren't sure about it, and I know that my friends like Matt weren't overly convinced by it, and I wasn't either. I hope that when you go back and revisit it, it might be your favorite Maiden album. And if that's the case, you clever little bastards, because I didn't see it, and I consider myself a pretty hardy Iron Maiden fan. I'd like to get it on vinyl so that I don't have it on vinyl. I'd like to get it on vinyl so I can give it a spin in an analog form and see if it changes it. Weirdly enough, it's a bit different on the streaming platform than it is on the CD. It's a bit softer. Let's see what, I think it was just hubris on my part I think it was hubris and nonsense. And I can't say that'll be the same what I will say about Dance of Death and Final Frontier when we get to them, because they'll be the next 2 episodes. But by a long way, this is 14th album and just cracking. I mean, really, even when I don't really like that one particular song that well, it is all killer, no filler. All right, it's just a brilliant album, and I would have loved to have seen them play that live. Sadly, they didn't get here until 2008, 18, I think it was 2018. So they didn't play. Oh, was it 2008? Might be 2008. They didn't play. It was the best of tour, and they didn't play. They may have played 1 or 2 from it. I really can't remember, to be honest, but I doubt they would have played Legacy. They would have played probably Different World, and then These Colors Don't Run, or Longest Day, something like that. I'll have to go back and look at that set list. Anyway, that's me for this week. Again, thank you for listening. I really love the feedback I'm getting. I got for the Crass one, it was really good. Again, not an episode that everyone would enjoy. It's not something that everyone would necessarily consider what they would want to listen about. But, hey, it's what we're here for, is to open your eyes and maybe educate and maybe enjoy something different. But this really was something that gave me a lot of joy and a lot of fun going back to. And I'm going to now put it on rotation in my Maiden. I have a Maiden rotation set list thing on Spotify. I'm going to slide it in somewhere, and hopefully it will just come in and I'll be like, oh yeah, Matter of Life and Death, brilliant. Oh man, The Legacy, fantastic. Wow, yeah, brilliant. It is so beautifully made, and I can see why now that they didn't master it. It feels like a real classic. It sits in the classics. For me, it just needed a different cover. I think it just needed to, for me, it was just a bit more Eddie that I can see, and I would have been happier. But anyway, that's just nitpicking, isn't it? It's not about the cover, it's about what's played, the notes within. So anyway, bye for now. Love you to come on my Facebook page and message me and tell me what you think, or on a YouTube. I will be on YouTube. You can leave messages there if you're listening through YouTube, and tell me what you think. And if you have, as I said, if you think you know what the song Reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg is about, please do let me know, because I'm struggling to find out what it's about. I don't know. Anyway, I just love the song. Let's leave it at that. Bye for now. So keep safe, keep rocking, and keep loving Iron Maiden. Remember, next week will be Dance of Death. See what we come with that one, eh? Bye for now.